Afternoon. It's Friday the 3rd of March 2023 and I'm here at the summit hut, largely buried summit hut at San Jacinto Peak. Snowshoed up this morning from Devil's Slide Trail or Breaking Trail all the way up. Tough ascent, not the hardest I've had, but solid ascent. Here at San Jacinto Peak, to be brutally honest, slightly disappointing. It's the most snow I've ever seen up here, but at average depths probably about 7 feet, which remarkably would actually put us still below average, the long-term average for the winter. I had some good numbers further down, about just around 6 feet at Wellman Divide. The greatest depth I actually had was at Annie's Junction. That's the high point of the PCT in Southern California, which is at about nearly 9,100 feet. It's about mile 181 and measured about 7.5 feet there. But obviously that's very heavily drifted at that point. Again, here there are drifts to 10 feet, but the average is about 7. So proportionate to the 4+ feet that we've had in Idlewild, actually not particularly dramatically more snow up here. A few things to touch on. Today, as I was hiking up, I checked texts, and I'd been about 2 hours into my hike when I heard that the National Forest has closed the forest, that provisional closures for a couple of weeks through to the 16th of March. Obviously I've been on the trail, so I don't know the full implications of that, especially in regard to PCT hikers. My personal opinion on a closure like that, probably best to keep to myself for the time being. Couple of days before that, on the 1st of March, the state park closed the wilderness, so essentially everything other than the campground in Idlewild and the area immediately around the mountain station of the tram up in Long Valley. As a wilderness ranger, volunteer wilderness ranger for the state park, I urge you to abide by that closure. My personal opinion is that was probably an overreaction to having a bit more snow than usual in Long Valley. Currently snowshoeing conditions, see if we can take a look. Snowshoeing conditions all the way up have been absolutely impeccable. I don't know if you can see my track back in there. Hopefully that's visible. This is the most I've been going in, and it's still only, in most places, only maybe 6 to 8 inches. Most of the way up I was only going in a few inches. I'm really glad I waited a day. I thought about coming up yesterday, came up today instead. There's been a bit more consolidation, and snowshoeing conditions are probably go as far as to say about as good as I've seen in obviously many hundreds of hikes in winter in the San Jacinto Mountains. So in that regard, it's a bit unfortunate that it's closed to those who have the equipment, experience, expertise to be hiking or mountaineering in these conditions. Ironically, 2 or 3 weeks ago, conditions were frankly a lot more dangerous. Then it was really hard and icy because we had lots of layers that, as if anyone who follows these will have heard, lots of layers involving a lot of ice. I was coming up at least twice a week and absolutely needed crampons for basically the entire month of January, first half of February, until all this powder arrived. So in terms of when it was more dangerous, frankly, that was probably 2, 4, 6 weeks ago than it is now. That's a personal and, I guess, professional opinion. Pretty spectacular vista. plenty of snow down there on the Desert Divide, probably a solid couple of feet on Spitler and Apache and areas like that. That said, it is melting quickly. We had some pretty dramatic melting in Idlewild yesterday, and the current forecast is for it to stay sunny. Not necessarily, some of the days are partly cloudy, but some steadily warming temperatures in Idlewild, at least pushing steadily into the 50s. So melting will be pretty dramatic, particularly for the sections of trail below 5,000 feet. Like I say, snowshoes currently everywhere that you can get access to, below anywhere certainly above probably 4,500 feet, something like that right now. But that will pretty quickly change over the course of the next week, and then spikes will be useful pretty much everywhere, potentially, as trails get compacted and we have more and more freeze-thaw cycles. I could see, took some photos of where an avalanche broke out from right just below San Jacinto Peak, just below the cornice there. Avalanche risk is currently minimal, basically non-existent everywhere across the slopes. They've consolidated really well. There's no evidence of a weak layer. In 2017, when we had less snow than this, I was getting whumping. I had some large cracks perpendicular to the slope, much more questionable conditions. None of that today. Probably little possibility of that developing at this point with so much sun and melting starting. That said, the North Face always avalanches, despite the erroneous information that you may have read in the media in the last couple of days. The North Face avalanches regularly. I see evidence of avalanches up there every winter, and even in the low snow years, and have done since I was watching avalanches there from my mum-in-law's porch, who used to live across on the north side of the pass, and that was 20-25 years ago. So North Face avalanches are annual and regular. This one didn't actually look particularly big. I know the photos look dramatic, but it wasn't actually a huge volume of snow that broke out, just traveled a long way. So no concerns regarding avalanche risk away from the North Face. And I will keep track of the various conditions. Oh, a few comments in regard to PCT hikers. Obviously going to be a challenging one this season, particularly those who have March dates. My recommendation would be to consider starting late. In a year like this, no one's going to give you a hard time if you don't stick to your permit date. That's my opinion. I think if you shift to April or even to May, I realize at such short notice that's easier said than done. But if there's any opportunity to do that's one option. There are opportunities for skirting part of the San Jacinto Mountains. I don't subscribe to the necessity to skip the whole thing. We'll see how the melting goes over the next couple of weeks. But for example, 151 to about 165 is usually pretty easy to travel. Should be within a couple of weeks' time with spikes. Get off at the Phobes Trail option before you get to Spitler and Apache Peaks. And then historically people have picked up the trail. They've hiked up Black Mountain Road, taken that alternate that gets you back onto the trail at about 191, and then from there on down you can hike downhill down towards the Interstate 10. So those are options, and we'll see how that develops. I mean, if we have a huge amount of melting in the next 2 or 3 weeks, there could be more sections that are passable as well, but obviously I'll keep an eye on that and update. Generally speaking, more information at sanjacjohn.com, the San Jacinto Trail Report, if you just Google San Jacinto Trail Report. special thank you today to Florian Boyd, who texted me about the Forest Service closure early this morning, and to my neighbour Terry Greiner, who, along with my indefatigable wife Anne, helped me out of a sticky situation with access first thing this morning. Couldn't have done it without them. Took a lot of the stress away from today's hike. And if you found this useful, I'm not monetized on YouTube. There's a donate page at the San Jacinto Trail Report, and it's going to be a challenging year, so your donations are greatly appreciated. Safe hiking, everyone.